Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So tonight I'm going to talk about the power of Samadhi. And in that little sutta I've been sharing with you called The Seen. It says that the power of Samadhi is seen in the 4 jhanas, with those qualities that we see listed. And you probably know that there are Buddhist traditions that really put a lot of emphasis on the jhanas and have methods for developing them as a practice and experiencing those qualities that are listed. But in the Thai forest tradition, they certainly practice meditation deeply, and they don't really talk so much in terms of jhana usually. I thought I would read to you from Stillness Flowing to talk about that a little bit. But before I do, I just want to say that what I'd really like you to know about Samadhi is that it's extremely important. You know, it's one of these 5 powers. It's natural. And it's not related necessarily to how much time you spend on the cushion. And it's not something we should try to think of as an attainment, something we have to get. But rather learning how to put in the causes and conditions for lucid calm, or steadiness of mind, collectedness of mind, that kind of altered state where the body feels really tranquil, the mind is calm, and there's happiness, where that can happen, where the 5 hindrances have disappeared. And try to make that, see, here we get into that dilemma again. Open up to that being part of your day-to-day experience. So I'm picking up the tome here, and this section in the chapter called The Heart of the Matter is called Calm and Insight. Samadhi. And when Ajahn Jayasaro writes Long Pa, that's referring to Ajahn Chah. Long Pa means Venerable Father. In his expositions of the practice of Samadhi, Long Pa usually preferred to avoid speaking in terms of jhanas. Instead, he would refer to the various mental states known as jhana factors, that constitute these jhanas. His reasoning was that the jhana factors such as bliss, which is sukha, or equanimity were directly experienceable by the meditator, whereas, quote, jhanas were simply names for different constellations of these factors. They were, in other words, conventions, and as such, they could lead the mind away from rather than towards awareness of present reality. And so that's the tricky part. When we're told these are the things we should experience and we try to get them, it leads us in the wrong direction. And too often, usually, because we're so conditioned in conventional reality, we're trying to do that as a personality. I want to get something, I want to experience this. And it just takes us in the wrong direction. So this is a quote from Ajahn Chah. If the mind is clear, then it's just like sitting here normally and seeing things around you. Closing the eyes becomes no different from opening them. Seeing while the eyes are closed becomes the same as seeing with the eyes open. There's no doubt about anything at all, merely a sense of wonder. How can these things be possible? It's unbelievable, but there they are. There will be sustained appreciation, vichara. So this is one of the qualities. Vitakka and vichara are two qualities of the first jhana. And Ajahn Chah used it and talked about it as sustained appreciation. So rising spontaneously in conjunction with rapture, that would be piti, happiness, which would be sukha, and a fullness of heart and lucid calm. So I'm going to read that again. There will be sustained appreciation arising spontaneously in conjunction with rapture, happiness, a fullness of heart, and lucid calm. This idea that it's natural. Subsequently, the mind will become even more refined and will be able to discard the meditation object. Now, vitakka, which is the placing the mind on the object, the lifting, or here it's the lifting of the mind onto the object, will be absent, and so will vichara, that sustained appreciation of the object. We say the mind discards vitakka and vichara. Actually, it's not so much that they're discarded. What is really meant is that the mind becomes more concentrated, more compact. So by the jhana definitions, this would be going into the second jhana. When it's calm, then vitakka and vichara are too coarse to stay within it. And so it's said that they are discarded. Without vitakka lifting the mind to the object and vichara to appreciate its nature, there is simply this experience of repleteness, bliss, and one-pointedness. So the idea is that as the mind becomes more concentrated, more steady, then things fall away. And the deeper we go into samadhi, the more the things fall away. But mindfulness is always there. And wisdom is always there. I don't use these terms first, second, third, and fourth jhana. I speak only of lucid calm and of vitakka, vichara, rapture, bliss, and unity, and of their progressive abandonment until only equanimity remains. This development is called the power of Samadhi, the natural expressions of the mind that has realized lucid calm. So there is a gradual movement in stages that depends on constant and frequent practice. Constant and frequent practice. No matter how deep Samadhi becomes, it is always accompanied by awareness. There is a perfect mindfulness and alertness, a constant knowing. Right Samadhi is a kind of Samadhi that never leads you astray. This is a point that practitioners should clearly understand. You can never dispense with the knowing. For it to be right Samadhi, the knowing must be present from the beginning right until the end. Please keep observing this. The pleasant and the unpleasant are states of being, states we are born into, expressions of attachment. As long as we attach to the pleasant or unpleasant, there can be no liberation from samsara. The bliss of Samadhi is not true inner peace. That peace comes through dwelling in the awareness of the true nature of the pleasant and unpleasant without attachment. Thus it is taught that the mind that lies beyond the pleasant, which is sukha, and the unpleasant, dukkha, is the true goal of Buddhism. It is taught that the mind that lies beyond the pleasant and the unpleasant is the true goal of Buddhism. This is something Ajahn Sumedho has been talking about a lot. Conventional reality is all about these opposites. Good and bad, right and wrong, pleasant and unpleasant. We're constantly seeing the two sides to things, or the two opposites. But Nibbana is beyond that. And Ajahn Chah would say that Nibbana is above the unwholesome and beyond, above bad and beyond good. Is the way you put it. So it's hard, or maybe not so hard, but intriguing to open the mind to that, I think. And finally, having abided in the state of complete lucid calm for a sufficient time, the mind withdraws from it to contemplate the nature of external conditions in order to give rise to wisdom. So that's where Samadhi leads. I think it's useful to look into how the Buddha talked about what leads to Samadhi and where the Samadhi leads. And he does this in a number of places in the suttas in a very natural way. And some of you may have heard about these suttas before. One is called the Upanisa Sutta. It's in the Samyutta Nikaya. It's it's 1223. And he talks about the natural progression. In this sutta, he talks about the chain of dependent origination, the way it's usually described with 12 links. starting with ignorance and ending with death. But in this case, in this sutta, he ends it with suffering. He doesn't describe which flavor of suffering. Death is one kind of suffering. And then he says, basically there's another way to go than just around the same cycle. Do you ever get the feeling that you're traveling in the same cycle? Over and over again, because we do in human life until we see that there's a way to step out of that pattern. And he said that in this case, he talks about the step out of the cycle of dependent origination. The first step out of it is faith. It's the faith that there is a way out of suffering. So it's sada, what we talked about at the beginning of the retreat. And he said that when we have faith, joy naturally rises. And there are a number of different kinds of joy in the suttas, and in case you're interested, we plan to teach a retreat at Cloud Mountain in June called 9 Days of Joy, and we're going to cover all of them. That's all we're going to do. But that's not what we're doing right now. So I'm just going to touch on a couple of them here. Well, actually, a few. So there are other ways to step out of that cycle and into this, Ajahn Kovilo calls it the well-being cascade. He put together a small book. I think it was part of his degree at the City of 10,000 Buddhas, or Dhamma University. And it's this sequence that gets repeated throughout the suttas, but there are different ways to enter it. And they all lead to Nibbana, all the different formulas. And another way that you can step out of that cycle of continued ignorance and suffering is, and clinging and craving and so on, craving and clinging and so on, is moral virtue. If we put our attention on developing the precepts, our virtuous behavior running all the way through action, speech, and mind, and just living it and embodying it. That virtuous behavior, the Buddha said, if you are practicing that, you naturally do not have regret. And when you do not have regret, the natural next step is joy. And we come to this same place with faith. And this joy, this first one, the Pali word is pamoja. And it can be translated as well-being. And when we have this sense of well-being, the next thing that arises is piti, that spiritual joy. I'm looking at Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation. Here he's got rapture. But it can also be translated as joy. And when we have the piti, that's why I think it's good to learn some of the Pali words and kind of get a sense for their meaning. once that piti is there, the natural next step is passaddhi, tranquility. So the joy leads to this beautiful, calm, tranquil state. And there's a sutta where you see this, where the Buddha says it's called making a wish. But it's actually, he says you don't have to wish. Like if you have virtuous behavior, you don't have to wish to have non-regret, it's just natural. If you have non-regret, it's just natural to experience joy, this well-being, this sense of well-being. If you have this sense of well-being, it's natural. You don't have to wish for it. It's natural to experience that spiritual uplift of piti. And from there, it's natural to experience this tranquility called passaddhi. This tranquility, the next thing that's natural is happiness, sukha. And once there's happiness, it's natural for the mind to go into samadhi. So it's really beautiful and interesting to see how we can start with developing faith, or we can start with developing our virtue. I would say it's so essential to develop our virtue in order to be happy. And it's so beautiful to develop our faith. We should just do all of them. Other stepping off points are learning, and I think what happens in the process of learning the Dhamma is the development of faith. And we have a joy, we feel inspired when we hear the Dhamma and it really touches our heart, and then this joy springs up. And then you're on the flow, this cascade of good qualities, of beautiful states. In this particular sutta, the Upanisa Sutta, which, by the way, Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi wrote a beautiful paper about this particular sutta, and if you go online you can find it. I think he calls it the transcendent chain of dependent origination, something like that. And it's like, it says at each step the purpose of moral virtue is non-regret. The purpose of having non-regret is joy, is well-being, and so on like that. Until we get to samadhi, the actual purpose of samadhi is knowledge and vision of things as they are. So we're not trying to attain samadhi just for samadhi. Samadhi, we want to develop on this path. And of course, each of these qualities, you can get the feeling for how much it soothes the body and the mind, how much it invigorates the body and the mind in our life, how healing it is to experience these things. And it's not like, oh, I have to try and try and try and try, and someday I'll be able to experience a quiet mind. That's what I think we can put in the causes and conditions that help to quiet the mind, and really look at what those are. And once there's knowledge and vision, The Pali is Yata Bhuta Jnana Dasana. There's going to be a test later. What you doing? Yata Bhuta Jnana Dasana. The knowledge and vision, knowing and seeing things as they really are. Now this isn't the final knowing and seeing that is liberating, but it's the first main step in that direction. I think of this cascade of well-being not so much as a cascade, but I feel like there's this ascendance to Samadhi, and then there's kind of a descent to liberation. I don't know why I picture it that way. Feel free to picture it however you want. Just do it. Okay. So when we get that glimpse, what is that like? Well, now we're actually on the wisdom side of things. So there'll be more about this tomorrow night. But this idea that the purpose of Samadhi is liberation, is wisdom, is to know the world, to know conventional reality for what it is, so that we don't keep getting entangled in it, so that we can really love without attachment, so that we are really open and available and in some real sense prepared for whatever will happen. That we can love people who we see are making terrible choices and harming themselves and others. We don't condone their behavior. When we have an opportunity, we try to make it clear that that's not going to go well. But this kind of freedom from the continual cycle of wanting something or wanting to get rid of something, and the stress and all the other emotions that come with having to bear with what we don't want, or feel like we're missing what we want. And you can kind of get the sense that the awakened mind is somehow outside that whole push and pull. And just so for the preview to the wisdom bit that I'm going to start looking at tomorrow night, once the knowledge and vision of things as they are arises, the next thing is this disenchantment, or some translators really don't like that translation. They like to think about being maybe disillusioned, or there's dispassion. Oh, actually, in this case, this word is nibbida. It would be disillusion, and the next step is dispassion. But, in a way, we are kind of enchanted with conventional reality. In a kind of funny way. How much do you look at the phone to see the horror show that's going on out there? It's because we are kind of attracted to this activity. But then at some point we realize that we're sacrificing our peace of mind and our happiness. And I'm going to get to a beautiful question that was in the basket today about how do we deal with the world, basically. I'm going to talk about that. But the more we practice and open ourselves and give ourselves the time and the supportive conditions to develop the mind, to develop our virtue, to develop our wisdom, the less we are negatively impacted and the more good we are for everyone around us. It's really beautiful. So there's this knowledge and vision of things. We start to get it. I don't know, that isn't a very good way to put it, is it? Language is so hard. And disenchantment or disenchantment, and then dispassion. And from the dispassion, from the viraga, there is freedom, vimutti. And then finally, the knowledge of the destruction of the defilements that have been clouding our understanding, that we've been caught up in, conditioned to hold on to, the letting go. So we can place samadhi right there in the middle, right? The moral virtue, the faith, applying energy, these things are leading to samadhi. Mindfulness, of course, is involved as a basic ingredient in all of it. And then comes wisdom and liberation. And this is one way to do it. So I think I mentioned earlier this week that Ajahn Kana says meditation is easy. Just breathe in happily, breathe out happily. Breathe in relaxed. The Thai word is sabai. It's probably my favorite word. Breathe in sabai, breathe out sabai. Yeah. How much do we have to clear away to make that easy? Letting go of things. There's another question that I'll be reading to you tomorrow about, how do we put things down? Maybe I won't read it tomorrow. I'll give it a stab right now, and then maybe that'll do it. So how do we put things down? I think we need to see the truth of what we're clinging to. The Buddha uses this really graphic image. Some of you have probably heard, it's in the suttas. He says that if someone with leprosy, so sores all over their body, one way that they would find relief is that two other people would hold them over a fire, basically cauterizing these sores, and that would make them feel better. But he said if a doctor gave them a medicine that would cure their leprosy, then do you think that man would want to be held over a fire? It's like, no way. He's going to be fighting like crazy if two people try to drag him over to hold him over the fire. And he said that's what it's like to realize what conventional reality is like. We're indulging in it, but we're hurting ourselves all the time. it's really painful. I mean, how much suffering do you have in your life right now? And the cause, as hard as it is to consider, is not outside. It's not what other people are doing. It's not the circumstances of aging, sickness, and death, even though that can be pretty crummy and difficult to bear. But it's our attachment, it's our blindness, it's our ignorance. What are we ignorant of? We're ignorant of the truth. All these impermanent things that we cling to, that we want to get rid of. This is the problem. It's our way of seeing. And so this practice of really looking at each thing, each event of dukkha, in this very straightforward way that the Buddha said, understand this dukkha. Dukkha is actually the warning light. I had a Ford Escort a long time ago. Kind of handed it over to my son. And I don't blame him for this, but the oil light was coming on, and sure enough, the whole engine got ruined because nobody paid attention. That's what we're doing. Dukkha is the warning light. Really, all we've been talking about this week is ways of paying attention and taking care of it. It's turning towards it. It's willing to be with it. The demon, the monster of the dukkha is not nearly as big and scary as we think it is. If we stop running the other direction and we just turn and face it, we can be present with it and it shrinks. We can see its true nature, its passing phenomenon. And it's not just that things are impermanent and we gotta wait for them to be over. It's to see the whole nature of conventional reality, the constant changing, the constant instability, the constant unreliability, and then to really get that it can't belong to us. It can't be a self. When we stop trying to appropriate or acquire things that are impermanent, we become free. And happy, unburdened. And we still have bodies, and we'll be dealing with that. But without the mental stress, it's not so bad. I used to attend this place called the Center for Spiritual Enlightenment. It's where I got my Master's of Divinity degree. It was really helpful because it was interfaith, and it was a great transition from fundamentalist Christianity into Buddhism. There's a bit of a dance that has to happen to do that and still respect the religion of my origin in this lifetime. And there was this chant that they would do at the end of every Sunday morning service, which had this line in it: in this moment, all And for the first couple of months, or maybe, I don't know, I would think, really? Well, yeah, this moment, all my needs are met, but really? I mean, consider, you just try to find a moment. I know that sounds crazy. Of course, there are really miserable moments. But if we're really grounded in the Dhamma, all of our needs are met. It may be hard to believe, but try it out in this moment. With the Dhamma, it's bearable, or it's beautiful and freeing. And a couple of people have talked about this, and I've also this week talking with this young woman whose mother just died, and it was a really tough go in the hospitals in India. But she said, there's this calm arising in me. It's like, those years of reflecting on aging, sickness, and death, just knowing that what's happening is okay. It's okay. It's okay to die. It's okay to be sick. It's even okay to have pain. There's tremendous learning there, and loving, and there's always so much kindness that we can have for ourselves, and that others will show all the caregiving. And I'm open to hearing your complaints about what I'm saying. And I'm just going to challenge you to practice and find out for yourself. I like when Ajahn Sumedho says, don't believe it just because I'm saying this. You don't have to, whether you like it or not, whether you agree or not, whether you feel angry or happy or whatever, just be present with that. Witness that in yourself. Just do that, witnessing all the time. Be present with what you experience. Apply the Dhamma to it. And learn what is it that the Buddha found? And why is it that he said we can all find it too? And do it. Wake up. Don't think of it as something that's far away. Make that shift. See the truth. Now when Ajahn Sumedho teaches, that beginning, Namo Tassa, and I say, Buddham Dhammam Sangham Namasami. I bow to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And he says, after the Namo Tassa 3 times, the gates to the deathless are open. For those who can hear, show your faith. It's in the suttas. When the Buddha agreed to teach after he was invited by Brahma Sampati, which is exactly what happened tonight. The gates of the deathless are open. It's up to you.
Sadhu.